Alright guys, today I'm going to be reviewing Tennessee Tornado. This is the Aero Looper here at Dollywood, and let me just tell you, it feels nothing like any of the other Aero Loopers. I'm usually known for really not liking Aero at all. I think most of their rides are pretty rough, and most of them are actually pretty stupid in my opinion, but this ride is definitely an exception, and I'll go into that in this review. So for starters, this is all the way in the back of Dollywood. You're going to have to hike to get here. So yeah, it's definitely a pain walking from Lightning Rod or Thunderhead or wherever you are to get to this thing because it's all the way in the back and it's all the way up the hill. So yeah, you're definitely going to be exhausted by the time you get here. And it definitely doesn't help that the station is really high up. So yeah, you're going to be tired by the time you get in the train. So it'll feel nice to sit down. And these trains, I mean, they're normal Aero Looper trains. They're nothing special. They do give some good room for airtime, though, which there's definitely one moment in particular that's really good. So that's really nice to see that it has actual over the shoulder restraints and not vests, unlike its neighbor Wild Eagle, which really takes away from the airtime on that ride. The theming on this ride, I mean, it's all right. The station kind of has some. The facade looks pretty cool. And the whole area around it, it's like themed to this tornado wreck, which I mean, it is Tennessee Tornado, so obviously it's themed to a tornado. But, you got like these carts all flipped upside down in the trees. Everything looks like it's been wrecked, so it's definitely really cool in this area. And this really isn't theming, but I mean, you're on the side of a mountain. You're surrounded by the trees and the woods everywhere you look. So that's definitely a nice touch. A lot of the coasters here at Dollywood use the terrain really well, and this thing is definitely no exception. I'm going to say right now, you have to be in the back row for this ride, okay? There's no other row you can sit in. Sit in one of the back two rows, so back car. The ride ops here, most of the time, they'll take seating requests. I did notice they won't take them if you have the fast lane or time saver, it's called here. But yeah, if you don't have time saver, then you can pick your row from what I've seen. But if you have time saver, they're just going to tell you to go in a certain row unless it's a completely empty station, which I will say this is definitely the least crowded ride here as far as the coasters go, at least. Like, I feel like Whistlepunk Chaser is probably more popular than this. I'm going to be real. So definitely do not worry about hitting this early. This should be like a last priority for you in terms of the coasters you have to hit in order. You probably will want to just hit this towards the middle just because of its location. You're not going to want to run down the hill to Thunderhead and then back up to this thing. That's definitely not a good idea. Save your legs the trouble. So let's finally get into this layout. You're going to start off by kind of doing this little dip out of the station. You don't really get much, but in the back, you kind of get thrown forward, which is kind of cool. And then you're going to turn around to the left. It's basically just a U-turn. You don't really get too good of laterals or anything here. You're going to go through the storage shed, actually, with the transfer track and everything. So that's really cool to pass by, actually. And then you're going to hit this mini drop out of that, which actually gives a little pop of floater in the back. So that's really weird. You're going to get a little laterals when you turn to the right. And then you're going to head up the lift hill. And, I mean, it's a fine lift hill. You get a good view from it for sure. And then you're going to turn off it. You're going to the right. And then you hit the first drop. This first drop is so good. It basically dives through the mountain. So it's in pitch black, basically. Not really, because you could see the end of the tunnel, but you know what I mean. It's in the dark. You have a full body chopper, really. And you get sustained airtime the whole way down. You're definitely out of your seat the entire way, especially since these trains let you get great airtime. And this is an element that somehow gives butterflies for me. I don't really get that much on coasters these days, but this one did it. So I don't really know what it is. Apparently Wild Eagle gives it for most people, but no, it was this drop for me. It's also worth noting you'll kind of get kind of a mini version of airtime almost, if that makes sense. Like you kind of come out of your seat, but not really on the pre-drop before this main drop. So that's kind of nice. And then after this main drop, you're going to hit the first vertical loop. And this is really when you can tell this is an Alan Schilke creation, not Ron Toomer with his cookie cutter vertical loops and everything. Because really, every single arrow vertical loop is the exact same. Like Viper at Darien Lake, Viper at Magic Mountain, even though Viper at Magic Mountain's way taller, the vertical loops are the exact same. They're just copy and paste, and Viper at Magic Mountain has a bigger ramp leading up to it. So this is the big difference between Tennessee Tornado and those old arrow loopers. This thing is completely custom. Alan Schilke did a fantastic job with this, and that's really apparent in this first vertical loop. So basically, you start heading up to the top, and you'll get a pinch of hang time at the top. It's slow enough where you're going to get something, but it's not much. And then on the valley of this, you get some great positive Gs. And the whole thing's very smooth. It looks really wonky, actually, but it actually rides very smooth, which is impressive. And then you hit this fast overbank to the right. This element is really cool. You don't really get much airtime or positives or anything, but it's pretty whippy and it really keeps the pace going, which is nice. After this element, you're going to hit the best sequence on the ride, and given this is a very short ride, so this is like a third of the ride, but this vertical loop into the Sidewinder, this part's so good. This is an instant gray out for me on all 5 of my rides I grayed out here. You're going to hit the vertical loop, and it feels similar to the first, although the valley on this is a lot more intense, and it's sustained all the way through the top of that Sidewinder. It's incredible. Your vision's just completely gone. I know they have like area checks here like every 2 hours, and actually a coaster enthusiast, Coasters and Things, had to do a check on this at one point, and he was like, yeah, how am I supposed to see anything if I gray out? But yeah, both these inversions are very smooth, very comfortable. Unless you don't like positive Gs, then it's definitely not so comfortable, but I love positive Gs, so that's great. And they're pretty whippy too, especially the Sidewinder. You get some good whip out of that, I feel like. Then you're going to pop up into this turn to the right. You're not going to get much here except for sense of speed and a bit of whip, which is nice. It's definitely a very fast-paced ride. There's no dead spots on this thing. And then after that, you pop up into the brakes. In the front, you'll get a little airtime. In the back, you'll kind of just get thrown forward, which isn't really airtime, but it kind of, I don't know, it's fun. I mentioned pretty much throughout this layout breakdown that this ride is very smooth. This ride doesn't really have a vibration or anything. The profiling's great because, again, it's Alan Schilke, not the normal arrow copy and paste crap that they did before Alan Schilke. The ops on this ride are probably the best in the park. This park, well, maybe with the exception of Mystery Mine, has really good ops. I mean, that ride's not bad, but yeah, this park's got really good ops, and this team is incredible. I already mentioned Coasters and Things. Jason, he's really good, but everyone else here is also really good. They all try to move those trains out as quickly as possible, and it's usually running 2 trains. And something interesting is they have to wait for the train to kind of clear the first vertical loop almost before they can send a train out, even though it already cleared the block zone at that point, and that lift hill is definitely going to take a lot longer than this layout is. So I don't know why they have to do that, but it's kind of weird. Either way, they're pretty much never stacking trains. It's really good. So for Tennessee Tornado's final score, I'm going to give it a 868 out of 1,000. This is easily the best aero coaster I've done that's not X2, because let's be real, X2 something else, all right? But this is definitely an amazing ride. Doesn't really feel like an aero at all, which, again, is good considering most of their other rides are pretty bad. It's a very short but very sweet ride. Great pacing, great inversions, great first drop. Yeah, overall, this is a really fun ride. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Make sure to let me know what you guys think of this ride down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.